is everyone? Hope you're all doing well and ate lots of good food like I told you to. I've been eating noodles and dumplings again because I ran out of food and I don't want to go grocery shopping. Foraging for food every day is so difficult. But anyway, as you guys may have seen from the title, I will be talking about art school today because I get asked a lot of the same questions. So I figured I can just make talking streams about them, export it to YouTube, and when people want to know the things, I can just link them instead of repeating myself. Will it be useful? Be useful for me. I hope it's helpful for anyone who's curious out there. I've also had many people, younger, like New Zealand people, come by here or on my Instagram and ask me about what art schools are good in New Zealand. And honestly, if you're wanting to do illustration, like the type of illustration that I do, you're not gonna learn it at art school. Yeah, art school's only gonna help so much, and New Zealand has even less options, unfortunately. Thank you K9s for 10 bits. I'm not sure if this topic is too relevant for some of you now because I've started like streaming other things. I'm so inconsistent on Twitch. I just stream whenever I feel like. I hope that's okay. Please tell me you slept and haven't been up. It's 6 a.m. I've been up since... When did I wake up today? Like 6 p.m? And then I took a nap from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And I felt all crusty, as you do. But sometimes when you lie down, it's just so comfortable. And you know, at nighttime when it's hard to get to sleep, and so when you're so comfortable that you can just doze off, and it's like a rarer moment, I gotta take advantage. I mean, your streams are just your hobby, right? So it makes sense if you aren't that consistent. I hold myself to high standards, even with my hobbies. If I'm gonna pursue something like streaming, even if it's just for fun, I wanna do my best. So, was art school worth it? I've been deciding whether to go or not. Yeah, there's a lot to that question. Art school in general, like if you're there to learn technical skill, most likely it's not going to be worth it. You can probably get better help with like how to draw things or illustrate things the way you want specifically from like online courses, because those online courses likely advertise themselves with like a very specific style, or maybe it's from an artist that you really like and it'll teach you how to draw things like them. Whereas for art school, their goal basically is to make you employable. So being employable, there's a lot more to being employable than just technical skill, which means they focus on getting you to try out a whole variety of things. And even when you specialize in the art school, I think they still keep it quite broad, so that there are more options for you once you graduate, like more different jobs that you can be employed for. Thank you for the sub, Capri Queen. But there are things that art school is good for, which is, well, people say making connections. But, like, what can you actually expect? Making connections. Some schools are a lot better for that than others. It really depends what school you're going to, where you're going to school, what kind of connections they actually have. Some of the larger art schools, I believe, they probably, I think that companies will like look for new graduates each year from those schools specifically. So in that way, you have a way in to those companies that the school already talks with. Let me get some water. Other connections are you get to meet a lot of peers. A lot of people who are on the same journey as you, whether a bit earlier or later in their journey. But generally, if you're both studying the same course, in most likelihood you're like fresh out of high school. And it can be really helpful to be in an environment where everyone is trying to go for the same thing or a similar thing, at least, to improve their art skill, to get hired for an art job. Art school is an experience and an opportunity. Don't think of art school as this door that magically makes your dreams true. Think of art school as a stepping stone. Yeah, I think some people, they expect art school to just magically, or I don't know, perhaps they just don't know what you need to do to get good at art. But getting good at art is about putting a lot of time in and being self-critical rather than going to art school and somehow passively getting experience points just from attending. So I think some people just need to adjust their expectations for art school. I've had some friends who went to one of the schools I went to, media design school, and the course is called game art. So I think it confuses people because you are actually learning game art, but it's not just concept art. Because media design school wants you guys to be, well, not you guys, the students to be employable, they focus on a range of skills which are employable, which means concept art is only like one semester of the first year, and the rest of the course is learning 3D. 3D art is quite a big part of it. Learning a little bit of making your own game, which means learning coding, like some basic coding. And I actually felt that was really helpful because working in a team, if you understand what the other people do, you can accommodate for them better. So some people go into the course and they think it's just going to be concept art, and then when you're handed all these other things, they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's too different for them. There's also the fact that it was a bachelor's degree. I'm not sure if this is the same overseas, but because it was a bachelor's degree, you have to write essays. There's actually quite a few essays to write every year for one of the classes. It's just what you have to do for a bachelor's degree, and I think a lot of my friends who went to that school struggled with it because, well, essay writing is a lot more different to drawing. I think for that course, it is actually quite helpful. There's a lot behind creating games that you can learn by writing. Well, I don't know if writing is necessary. Maybe just like listening. But there's a lot to talk about for creating games, is the thing. Like, there's a lot of game theory. And I actually found it really interesting myself. But I can understand why people struggle with it. For me, I think it wasn't the most interesting. It definitely wasn't the most interesting thing I had to do for school. But I found it interesting. Like, for example, one of my essays, it was just talking about my favorite game, Nier Automata, and like explaining the themes of the game and how they are expressed with the game mechanics. I liked that. It was quite interesting. But yeah, I think some people don't realize they have to do this when they go to art school though and want to get a bachelor's degree. They just aren't introduced to the fact that there's so many other things besides just drawing and learning how to draw at art schools. Because, for example, what I went to, I think it's still considered an art school. It's called Media Design School, although the game art course is focused on art for games. But I can see how it's easy to assume that the school is just going to be about like game illustration if you don't look into it, which is why if you're considering going to an art school, I very much recommend to go to the open days and have a listen to the teachers, or even talk to alumni. Is that how you say it? Alumni? People who graduated or left the school. I think people who left the school will have things to say as well about why they left, why the course wasn't for them. And people who graduated, well, you can talk to them about their full experience. Alumni. Yeah, the alumni. Oh, I got it so wrong. Are you working at a game company now? No, So what happened to me is I didn't actually finish any of my degrees. I left because I realized I wanted to do illustration full-time, and I had belief in myself to be able to learn better on my own and not being distracted by schoolwork. I just wanted to focus my time 100% on getting better at art so that I could stand out for illustration and do it full-time, which is what I do now. which is very lucky, honestly. When it came down to leaving my degree, like right now I can talk casually about it, but when it came down to quitting my degree and going for illustration full-time, it was a really difficult decision because I wasn't as established as I am now. I didn't get as many job offers. I didn't get as much personal commission offers. I hadn't done a lot of conventions either. I didn't have Patreon set up, I don't think. Yeah, I think Patreon I set up the year after I quit, like a few months after I quit uni. So all of these things I set up after leaving art school. But for me, I think it was the right decision. The only thing, because I don't need a degree, my goal was always to do freelance illustration because I enjoy working by myself at home alone. Oh, someone redeemed a wobble. Maybe I should I should disable the events and redeems for this stream, sorry. But I'll give you your wobble. Yeah, but for this stream I won't be doing them. Let me read chat a little bit. Nowhere there's a knee sound for Loom. Also, it's the Loom 9. I think that student loans are just a US thing. In most countries, it isn't a big deal. Yeah, it's not a big deal in New Zealand. That is for sure. In New Zealand, my courses were like 10,000 a year for the art schools. So, and that's New Zealand dollars as well. So if you convert it to USD, that's like 6,000, 7,000 USD. So in total, maybe 21,000 USD for the total of my degree, because in New Zealand our degrees are 3 years. So if I went for 3 years, it would have cost that much. How long have you been drawing with the intent to pursue art as a career? So pretty much after high school. Yeah, after high school. Right now I'm 22. When I left high school, I was 18 or 19, I think. So it's been 4 years. 3-4 years. It's asking this because I want to learn art more, and I don't know if tutorials online will cut it. Oh, were there things in art school you learned that you can't learn on your own? Let's get into the first school that I went to. I went to animation college for my first year of study. Let me quickly answer that question and then go into this. I studied 3D animation at an animation college, and I think it would have been a lot harder for me to learn 3D animation on my own, just because 3D animation is so technical and you have to sit through a lot of tutorials to learn like the exact little tiny things to set up for 3D animation. And honestly, I don't have as much patience for 3D as I do for illustration. So in that way, I think art school helped me because it forces you to sit down there and learn with a bunch of other people in the classroom. But I wouldn't say that you can't learn 3D on your own, because there are so many good 3D tutorials online, and if you have the patience to sit through them, then you can learn a lot. Yeah, you can get really far. People are very generous and make great tutorials online. This is the same. for 2D illustration, I'd say. There's so many good resources online. We are living in a very lucky time. I think, yeah, you can learn so much for $0. Just your ad money. RP paid so much. Oh my goodness. Rideth Mochi? You paid 350,000 to art school? Are you from the US? I'm so scared every time you Americans talk about your student loans. I feel like the amount of students that go to art school and get these student loans are not the amount of people who end up being successful enough in art to pay it off. Is that a bit harsh? But I just feel like that is the case. So what happens? What happens to all that student loan? Anyway, the reason I went to animation college in the first place is because every year they held a art competition. So when I was in high school, they had an art competition, and the first prize was like $2,000, a year scholarship to the school, a Wacom tablet, and some other goodies. But I mean, those prizes, man, are pretty sweet. And in New Zealand, it's actually, you don't have as much competition. just because New Zealand population is less, there's not as big of a art industry here. So there's just less people into art in New Zealand, which is how I managed to win the second year, which is how I got a scholarship for the school. And that is why I went to the school, because my dad was very against me going to art school. Even though my dad bought me my first tablet, he was never supportive of me going for it as a career, because he thought that I wouldn't be able to make money off of it. Do you currently live in New Zealand? Yes, I do. I like living in New Zealand. I considered moving overseas, like trying to find out how to move overseas before COVID. But after COVID, I like it here. Even if I have to fly like 15 to 30 hours for conventions, it's nice to be able to live here and still go outside and not fear getting COVID and losing my sense of taste and smell. Do you ever plan moving out to the US, Canada? Yeah, so I considered that because conventions are just... Okay, so there's conventions and studio work. Both are very good in the US. There's not as much in New Zealand, that's for sure. We have like 2 conventions a year. I don't even know how many the US has, but you guys have multiple conventions like across the country on the same weekend. Because it's just so big over there. But yeah, that's why it would be easier to earn more money if I were in the US or Canada. Because of that, it's also better for getting studio work. I probably won't be able to work in any studios in the US because I don't have a degree, but since that wasn't my goal, I'm okay with that. I like working for myself. The thing you sacrifice for not getting a degree is that. But I suppose if I ever wanted to, I could always just, like, if I suddenly really wanted to work for studios, I could just get a degree. Yeah. I mean, suddenly didn't want to do freelance art anymore. But the downside of living in the US is that so the potential for money is high, but it's also very risky because you guys have to pay. Okay, I shouldn't say you guys. Americans have to pay so much for just absolutely everything. Like if I ever got sick or something in the US, apparently that's just like goodbye to thousands of dollars. How do people afford being sick in America? When I go to the doctor in New Zealand, it's like $18, and I don't have insurance or anything. That's the one thing. Perhaps if I was American and I was used to how much things cost in America, I wouldn't feel this way. Because I mean, you guys live there, so you guys don't really have a choice. You just have to pay up. So maybe it's less shocking. Like you guys are just dulled to it. Yeah, that's one of the main things. And I feel really safe in New Zealand. I like feeling safe. I am a... Okay, so I told you guys I was 160 feet tall, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry I betrayed your trust, first of all. But despite how it looks, I'm actually not 160 feet tall. I'm actually more like 160 centimeters. I'm sorry. Please don't cancel me. I just didn't. I'm so sorry. but yeah, I'm 160 centimeters, or like 163, somewhere around there. I'm a small Asian girl who does not have many muscles. I don't look very intimidating, so I am glad to live somewhere that feels safe to walk around at night outside. Although I don't really do that. But even like, I don't know, chances of getting, like, what if I had to? What if I did want to someday? It's just safer. But yeah, that's why that's the downsides that keep me from moving to someplace like the US. So continuing my I got sidetracked. Continuing to my first art school story. My dad really didn't want me to go there, even with the scholarship. Like, I won that art competition because I think I did a lot of things growing up to try to change his mind about art. I opened commissions very early on. When I was like 15 maybe, I started doing commissions on DeviantArt because other artists were doing it, and because I wanted to earn money from art as soon as possible to prove to my dad that it was possible. I always do this thing where I say the same word twice in a sentence, and it really bothers me. I think I'm just bad at talking. But yeah, I did a lot of things to try and convince him otherwise, and he never got convinced. Yeah, and no matter what I did, no matter what I won, I mean, for the animation college, the prize was really good, and the competition is still out of like the whole of New Zealand. Anyone from New Zealand can enter the competition, and I placed first, and it was basically still like nothing to him. Or perhaps it's just that Asian mentality where you shouldn't praise your children for what they do, but it just didn't change his mind about how seriously I took art and wanted to go for it. I think eventually what I did is I convinced, because at the time I was still living under his roof, which means he still has like influence over my life at that point because we lived together. I convinced him that it would be like a waste to not take the scholarship, to not use the scholarship and not attend the school for that 1 year, because it's like $10,000 basically. If I were going to that school without the scholarship, I'd be paying $10,000. So the scholarship is worth that much. And yeah, that led me to attending animation college for the 1 year. For the first year I left high school. That is what I did. Well, not left high school, like after I graduated. The thing is though, one time I heard him talking to someone on the phone about the fact that I was going to animation college, and he was like, he said that I was just messing around for 1 year. It would be like a gap year before I actually go, study something real. And that was some real pain pickle, if you know what I'm saying. But that year at animation college, the school itself, to be honest, they try. I don't want to diss on them because they try to be good, they try to offer resources, but I think maybe they just I think one problem is they're just not I don't want to diagnose their issues because I know nothing, but I'd guess it's like a cycle of there not being enough art students to go to their school, so they don't have enough money to make the school better, but then if the school isn't better, they don't attract more students. Probably a cycle like that. That's just what I'm guessing, but who knows. Amachi, hello, thank you so much for the raid. I hope you had a good stream. Hello Amachi. Today I'm talking about art school. I was struggling with my life for a year, no job, low classes. I felt worthless. One night I heard my dad say to my mother that I will do nothing with my life. That really sent me down this path. Yeah, parents sometimes they can say some really cruel things. I don't know if they said it because they wanted you to hear that or not, but I wonder if they know. If they know just how much it affects their children. I think sometimes their frustration just leaks, and they just want you to feel bad so that you go do something, but it has like the opposite effect. Parents don't understand the weight of their words. Yeah, and especially because as children, you don't want to show weakness in front of them either. Or at least for me, I didn't like showing weakness in front of my parents. So that would just make them more angry. Like, I think sometimes they want to see you feeling bad or feeling sad. Yeah. And when you're not reacting the way they want you to, they're just even crueler with their words. Okay, so continuing. The school itself was, I think overall I liked going to art school. I wouldn't say that it really helped my art skill. They had life drawing every week, and for a while, I'd say life drawing is pretty handy if you don't have any other options to do life drawing near you. It's useful to, it was helpful. We would all sit in a classroom together and the nude model would compose for the hour or two every week, and it's just a good environment to do it, because life drawing, if you're not passionate about life drawing, it may feel like a chore, but it really helps your foundations and getting used to posing a human body. It was weird initially when I grew up, and through high school I was inspired to do art. I drew for a long time, but the continuous pressure of authority figures in my life telling me it was a pointless endeavor, coupled with my own misgivings, made me quit. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that happened to you. I was lucky enough that even though my parents weren't that supportive, my mom was supportive of my art, but she was back then things were complicated between me and my mom, so it's like a whole other story. But for me, while my dad was strongly against me pursuing art, other people in my life always encouraged me, whether it was school teachers. I had a teacher in year 6. I don't know if she realizes that I still remember this. It was a very nice gesture. So we were doing some sort of art project, and optionally you can bring in like a canvas to draw on instead of just the normal paper that they have around at school. But this teacher, she knew that I really liked art and that I was fairly good at art, and so when she saw that I didn't bring in my own canvas, she found some like better card paper for me to draw on, and I appreciated that. All these kind of little things really encouraged me to keep drawing over the years. I think my friends were also, like, whenever I talk to them about art, they've always been really encouraging about what I'm doing. Although for the most part, since it's not too many other artists at the time, like when I was growing up, not many other artists to talk to. I don't think I talked to my friends that much about drawing. But yeah, no one dissed on me, even though sometimes in primary school I would just like sit on some stairs and draw wolves by myself. Wonder if they thought I was weird. How did I get to this? Oh, because you didn't have much encouragement growing up. I think part of how I kept going with art is very much thanks to all of these people in my life who told me to keep going. So I'm very grateful for that, and I am sorry to hear that people always insisted you to not pursue art. even some art teachers, they have the opposite effect on people and end up discouraging interested artists to pursue art instead of pursuing it, which is very sad to hear. Anyways, at animation college, the reason I chose, so there were 3 options. There's a bachelor's degree in animation, 2D animation course, which is a diploma, and a 3D animation course, which is also a diploma. And at the time I could have chosen any of them, but I chose 3D because I didn't know if I wanted to commit to like a 3-year course, and I thought that a 2-year one might be easier to finish because I was still unsure about going for art in the first place, like with my dad not wanting me to do art, and the fact that I was worried myself about being able to support myself financially, and whether or not I was making a mistake, whether or not I should have just studied software engineering or computer science, which was my other option and my other interest back then. But I ended up going with 3D because, well, 1, because of that reason that I just mentioned, and 2, because I felt that 3D was a employable skill. There are more 3D jobs than concept art jobs out there. And also that I would find it difficult to learn 3D on my own compared to 2D, as I had some experience in 2D, both the software and animating in 2D, because of my drawing background as well. And I was right, because 3D taught me a lot. Yeah, it taught me a lot in like program wise, because I was completely new to Maya. I had no experience with Maya, and it would have been difficult for me to learn on my own. But going to the school, I really enjoyed learning how to make a 3D model, how to rig it, how to UV paint it, how to texture it, and how to make it move, how to use the camera to capture a scene and render it out with like lighting and everything. Learning the process behind 3D was really interesting for me, as I had no idea how people actually made 3D animations before that. Didn't understand it at all. But yeah, even though I don't use 3D at all now, because all I do is really draw, I don't do any 3D modeling. I don't even have Maya on my computer. I downloaded Blender because recently I wanted to use it for backgrounds, but I haven't been using that either. But I'm glad that I learned it. It makes it easier if I'm going to work with people who are going to 3D model something, because I understand the process that goes into it, and on the off chance I want to pick up 3D modeling, it'll be easier for me. So I don't have regrets for taking that course. As for the rest of the classes that I took at animation college, I think they were not very useful. The animation class was good because the teacher was good, and the teacher worked for like Disney movies, I think. Oh, is it Disney? It's like Hotel Transylvania. They did stuff for that. They animated for that. But they taught like the very basics, and I was already familiar with the very basics of animation, so that class didn't do much for me. And then I don't even remember the other classes, so I don't think they were very helpful. The teachers at Animation College move in and out quite often is another issue, and I think they hire a lot of fresh graduates. So yeah, I didn't find the course that helpful for my illustration at all, to be honest. And as for like connections, I didn't really make any connections through Animation College. The people in my class, I think maybe there was like one person who I could talk to. The 3D class was really tiny. There was like 6 people, but the rest of the people in the class, some of them were normal, but you get some weird people at art school, especially because for Animation College, for the diploma courses, you don't need to have any, you don't really need any requirements like from high school to go for the diploma course. And since they really want students, I'm pretty sure they just accept anyone. You're right about the weird people. Yeah, there's just so many weird people. Like, for example, when one of the classes, the animation class, is shared with the 2D animation. So the 2D animation people and the 3D animation people go into one classroom to learn the animation class. And one day I went into class, and there's just this group of kids. They're like sitting around one computer and playing some random YouTube video, and they were meowing to each other, just like loudly, like meow, 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 meow. Yeah, you get the point. It was like that, and I was so weirded out. And another time, I'm pretty sure it was for those same kids, but the teacher had to make an announcement to remind everyone to shower. Because it was getting stinky when you walk past like one part of the classroom. Yeah, it'd be like that with art school. I mean, of course not everyone's like that. There's just, some people, and art school is smaller, so you get to know them. I talked to a lot of my friends though who went to Animation College in the past, like years before I went, and I think they also found it quite useless for learning, but they appreciated the fact that they met each other there. So even though Animation College might not be great at teaching you like art, if you're lucky, you might meet other artists who were also hoping for better and make art friends through the school. Especially in New Zealand, there's as I said, there's less artists, so we're a rarer breed. It can be exciting to finally have people who relate to you. I've talked to someone who came up to me. They said that at their high school there was like no one else who drew, so they felt really lonely until they went up to Animation College. Oh, there was another girl who I made friends with at animation college, and she would eat takoyaki every day. She told me she would only eat takoyaki. Like, she'd go home and her mom would make her takoyaki, and that's all she wanted to eat. All day, all night. Just takoyaki. And you know, I respect that, but it was interesting. She would also, like, when we were in silence, like going down an elevator or something, she would just burst out laughing. And when I asked her what was so funny, she'd be like, oh, nothing. I just thought of something. I do that sometimes. And yeah, she really did do that sometimes. Just when we're not doing anything, she'll just start laughing out of nowhere. On the other hand, I've also had a friend who got very burnt out as a result of going to animation college. Mostly due to the group projects. It was the final year, they have like a big group project, and she got together with friends who she thought would work well together. But clearly that's not what happened. Near the end of the project, she realized that no one was doing anything, no one was handing things in, everyone was giving her excuses, but she herself was someone who really wanted the project to go well. She was very passionate about it, but it just took a toll on her. And after animation college, after that project, I think she found it very hard to draw for a while. Like, her passion was gone for a bit. She's too stressed from that project. Yeah. And I feel like overall that going to animation college, like for that last year at least, it was probably more harmful to her than doing any good. The plus is that she finished the course, so now she has a bachelor's degree. But was it worth it? I had that happen to me, and it spiraled me hard into depression. Yeah, I feel like sometimes uni is rough. Especially in those kind of cases. I know so many music students that when they graduated, they were so burnt out that they don't want to do music for a couple months. Oh no. But yeah, that's exactly the case. Yeah, that's my thoughts on animation college. In summary, I don't really use what I learned at school today very much, but it was a good year for me because it gave me time to realize that what I really wanted to do is art. And because the courses weren't hard for me, like a lot of the things there weren't helpful for me, but were really easy, so I still had a lot of time to do my own things, like building up my social media, doing Chai Latte, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you. Today I'm talking about art school. I hope you had a good stream. But yeah, because I had that time, I had that 1 year to just focus on my own art, I could build up everything to a point where I could see that I had potential to do it full time. I think at the end of the year, I only had like 10,000 followers on Instagram, which which is not much to build a career out of, but it was something. It was a beginning. And I think on Twitter I probably only had 2,000 followers back then. But I started selling at conventions that year, and convention money isn't, like, at that time it wasn't enough to really be able to support me full time, because I could only go to my New Zealand convention and like one Australian convention, but I could see there was potential, and I realized I really enjoyed drawing and I wanted to improve, and I liked sharing my art with people online, and I get really happy when people see my art and are happy as well. I like that feeling, so I wanted to keep going. Gave me a lot of time to think, and I wanted to keep going. Grateful for that year. I think if I didn't have that year to think it out, I might still have been very conflicted whether I wanted to do art or something else that would have made my dad happier. At the end of that year, there was some complications between my family, which led to me not living under my dad's roof anymore, and so I didn't have to take into account his opinion on what I studied. We actually, oh god, that was a messy time. Like right after I finished animation college, that was probably like the messiest few months of my life. I moved once, twice, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Okay, so throughout the next year, I moved 4 times. 5 if you extend it out a bit. So like within 1 year, I moved 5 times. It was between my parents' house and when I decided to move out on my own, and then moved back to one of my parents' house, and then moved out again with my current roommates. Yeah, that was oh. But anyway, because I wasn't under the influence of my dad's opinion anymore, I decided to try study at media design school. I think one thing that quite encouraged me to go there was one of my friends had just finished a comp sci degree, and she was into art and she wanted to go to media design school. And media design school was one of the places I was considering at the time, but I think it encouraged me more to go there because she was going. Like I'd have someone to go with. And I was interested in game design because I've always enjoyed games growing up. Games inspire like maybe 60-70% of my art growing up. Yeah, I've always surprisingly been very inspired by games. So the idea of working in games, even if it's 3D or whatever, to be honest, it seemed like a nice idea. In the school, I found the school was really helpful. I liked media design school a lot more in terms of actually learning things. So the courses were better, more structured. The instructors, the lecturers, felt more better overall as well. And I learned a lot about making games that year. I think it would be really helpful if I ever decided to, I don't know, work with like indie studios, or even if I decided to go into a larger studio to do work. That knowledge that I learned from the course would be very helpful. It did not, however, improve my illustration. There was like one semester of concept art. It was alongside making your own game. If you guys want to see my game, I actually have a trailer for it on YouTube. But yeah, I'll just link that in case you guys want to see. It's nothing special, although it makes me happy. I'm happy I made it, although I forgot everything. Here you go. Actually, maybe I'll just play it for you guys on the stream right now. Let me just close everything. Oh. Let's see. Chrome. There we go. You guys can watch my game trailer with me. I'm embarrassed. It's kind of cheesy, but this is the game I made for the first. Let me turn my music off. For the first semester, I think, or was it the second semester? Or was it a year-long thing? I don't even remember anymore. Pause my music. Here we go. Ta-da! That's it. No sound? Oh, you couldn't hear it? You can't hear it? Oh, I had it muted. I had some nice background music. Let me play it again. Yay. But yeah, that was it. That's what I made. And for the first semester at art school, for the I keep playing a video. For the first, oh, thank you for the claps. For the first semester, we worked on concept art for our game. I don't know if I still have like the work I actually did for it. Because I've changed computers since, so I'm not sure if the files still exist. Although I think I have the concept art for like the final image of the main character on ArtStation, which I can bring up. This is the witch. This is the witch character that was in the game. Leading up to this, we did a lot of tasks. I don't know how to explain it, or like the word for it, but in the assignment you have to do quite a few things to lead up to this final image. So, like, for the first part is you explore shapes and ideas. So you draw like a lot of little black silhouettes to find like the overall look of your character, and then you just keep drawing lots of different alternatives to lead up to the final design. But yeah, since that's like exploring concepts, I didn't learn any illustration skills specifically at media design school. They also had live drawing class, which was handy. What engine did you use? I used a Game Maker. That's what it's called, right? Pretty sure. Yeah, I hope you guys liked how it looked. Besides that, for the first year, they teach you how to do low poly models for school. I can actually show you my low poly models that I did for school. They're still on Sketchfab. And then on the second year, I think you do high poly, and then third year you do a group project and you make a game. Yeah, if you guys want to see, here's what I made. Here's what I made. Little bear. It's a little bear in a teacup. It's a low poly bear coffee. Haha. And low poly egg tart. Haha. It looks so good I can eat it. Texturing these are fun. And we did some, I forgot what this is called, but essentially you can make like parts. Like one wall is like one part, and then you can keep reusing that asset to build like a little town. I tried building like a mini Japanese I don't know, mini Japanese themed, what do you call this? Alleyway. This is fun to work on. But yeah, that's the kind of things I learned in the first year. Oh yes, modular buildings. This is Blender. It was with Maya. My garage door is really loud, so I muted just now. I think my roommate woke up and is going to work. Is there anything else I wanted to say? I think with this school, the main issue that people ran into is that they thought they were coming here for concept art. But I think I already talked about this. They thought they were coming here for concept art, but it's more of a it teaches you how to make games kind of school. I muted again for my garage. I know, it's so loud and annoying. Elastic Pepper, thank you so much for subbing. But yeah, that's why I recommend anyone who's looking into going to art school, do your research, talk to the people who went to the school, if you can find any, and be respectful about it. I don't know if it's just me, but when people ask me for advice, if they ask nicely, I'm happy to help them. But if they sound like they're like rushing for time or impatient or not even grateful that you're taking your own time to help them, I just don't want to talk to them. Be nice to people when you're asking for advice, because you don't even know these people. They don't owe you their time. They're helping you because they're nice. Find the art school graduate who's dead inside. No, but like, even if you talk to the art school graduates who are dead inside, you'll find out what made them dead inside, and that can help you understand if you're gonna be dead inside after high school. I mean, not after high school, after art school. But yeah, I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about for art school. There's like 2 other degrees. I mean, there's 2 other schools commonly, but this is like just for New Zealand specifically, that art students go to. Actually, there's 3. So there's Whitecliffe, which is like fine arts, which I'd say is different. If you're wanting to do digital art, don't do fine arts. And it's not the same thing. You're not gonna. It's just not gonna. You're not gonna learn anything that is helpful for your goal. And there's this other course that's called Auckland University of Technology. Oh no, that's the school. The school is called Auckland University of Technology, AUT for short. And there's a course there called Digital Design that 2 of my roommates went there actually, and they both did not think it was worth their time. I remember my dad was trying to convince me to go there because the school has university in the name. And he was trying to compromise, like, if you want to do art, then at least go to a university. But because of my friends who had graduated from the school at that time, I could talk to them about their experiences, and they thought it was just not useful. It was too broad. It's not good for digital art, that's for sure. They kind of bait you with the name digital design, but it just makes you try too many things to help people who already have a goal in mind. If you're not someone who already has experience in art and knows what direction you want to go, perhaps it would be helpful because it lets you try a whole bunch of different things. But like, keep in mind that you also have to do assignments for all these different things, and you might not enjoy all of them. Can you become a great artist by only self-learning? Like not going to art school? Yeah, you can. Art school is definitely not necessary to be good at art, but also being good at art is kind of subjective. I'd say art school doesn't really impact your technical skill unless you go to some really specialized art school. I think my roommate went to Fengzhou School of design, FZD, in Singapore, and that school is very targeted. So I feel like she learned a lot of skills there for concept art specifically. But I think she also agrees that what she got out of school the most was not like art skill. It was like the environment and the people she met. And it was a good year for her to focus on improving herself. Yeah. Oh, the other school is architecture. Architecture is the course for people who wanted to do art, but their parents didn't want them to do art, or they didn't know what to study and thought that architecture is close enough. But they didn't know what they're signing up for. I feel like most architects don't know what they're signing up for. Because they don't know that you have to first study for like 3-4 years, and then you have to get a master's degree for another 2 years. And then when you finally get a job, you're in like a junior position with little creative freedom. And I think you learn a lot of what you have to do on the job. But I think that's like the same for a lot of jobs. But just things to keep in mind, I guess. Oh, a lot of architecture students in chat. But yeah, I have some friends who do architecture or spatial design. And I think that's pretty much that's what they've discovered in their journey. Okay, I think that's it for everything I wanted to cover about my experience with art school. For those who don't know, after my 1 year at media design school, I took some time to really think again about what I wanted to do, and I was like super stressed out. I was starting to get headaches from being stressed out. I decided that I would quit media design school and do art on my own, because even if, say, I took up software engineering, my attention would be divided, just because I really love doing art. I would be like 50% focused on software engineering, 50% focused on art, and that would hold me back in both areas to be as good as I'd want to be. I guess there's a chance that I could combine the two, because people who are good at programming and art are rare, and that's a useful skill. But obviously I love illustration the most, and so I was picking between the possibility of being happy through financial stability with a job like software engineering, or being happy doing what I love. Like even if I had financial stability, what if I just hated doing software engineering? Would it be worth the money if on the other hand, if I pursue art and not earned a lot of money? Where would I be happier? It came down to that. And yeah, I picked art in the end. I wanted to put all my time and effort into it so I could get really good at art. And I'm lucky enough that it worked out to the point where I'm earning more than I would have with like another job had I graduated from university and like studied something that's not art. If you're good at art and programming, you can almost make the entire game alone. That's true, but I think for games you have to be very, very, very passionate about making games, because there's just such a high chance that you're not gonna make any money from it. Well, not a high chance, it's just like percentage wise, there's just so many games out there which don't make money, which means going into game making with the expectation of making a lot of money may make things tough for you. It's like people who go into streaming because they think they'll make a lot of money eventually. Like they go on the grind from 0 viewers and they just grind for the numbers to go up rather than focusing on their content. I think it's the same for art as well. People focusing too much on increasing their numbers and not on the content they're producing. Really happy for standing up for yourself. Many of us, like myself, did not have that courage. Yeah, I kind of sacrificed my like relationship with my dad instead. I think some people, they value their family a lot more, so they don't want to do something like what I did, where I just didn't tell my parents that I was gonna do art full time, because I was living away from them anyway. I wasn't depending on them financially, and when I made that decision, it's on my own. I think though, so you don't value your family a lot. I have a complicated relationship with them. It's not that I don't value them, it's like if they did a lot to me when I was younger to make me feel bad. That sounds really dodgy, but they just, like, my parents didn't have a good relationship with each other. So, this is getting kind of off track, but I'll cover it slightly. Parents didn't have a good relationship with each other, and that affected me because as a result, they were both stressed at each other and they let it off on me. Maybe I'll talk about it more in depth for another stream, but I think I'll end here unless you guys have. Will the cat comics continue? No, they probably won't. I was venting at the time. But things are better now, so don't need to vent. Do you guys have any more questions about art school? Otherwise, I will end it here. I hope it was interesting or helpful. Maybe answered some questions. I think maybe another day I'll talk a little bit about my family. I don't mind sharing it with people because I think a lot of others, when I was venting with those cat comics, it sounds kind of dumb, cat comics, when I was venting with those cat comics, a lot of people reached out and said that they were very relatable. And from talking with my friends, I think it's a very common situation to be in. And I think I'm lucky enough to have gotten past it now and be in a situation where I'm okay with my parents now. Well, I'm okay with my mom. I just don't talk to my dad. I have one question, but my art's on new mediums. What is your question? Any recommendation for those that don't have art schools but are passionate to get better to reach a career in it? Well, you don't need to go to art school to get a career in the art, unless you're aiming for a studio overseas from where you live, because then the bachelor's degree will help you get a work visa. As for like just improving your skill, it's a matter of putting time in, being genuinely passionate about what you're doing, but also strict and disciplined. Sometimes you're gonna feel bad while drawing. It can't be helped, especially if it's gonna be your work. You're not always gonna feel great, but you gotta keep going. You gotta keep going despite that. And the people who can just keep drawing, I think they manage to get further than people who like just stop whenever they don't feel like drawing. Yeah, you do need to push yourself a bit, is what I'm trying to say. Did you ever go through that phase that your art wasn't good enough? Of course. Let me show you my art when I won the art competition for the first college that I went to. Browser. Which source is this? Window capture. Add source. Here we go. This is my art back in high school. It's pretty terrible. So the theme of the competition was like emotions, and not emotions, it was light and dark. So there's like a set of light emotions that you can choose and a set of dark emotions, which is why she's like super angry here. But these are like some random concepts. I think this one was like curious. This was shy, I don't know, blushing, serene, angry. This is the first year that I entered. I was maybe in year 11, so I was like, how old was I in year 11? 15? Yeah, I was 15 maybe, or 14, I forgot. 14, 15. I didn't place in, no, actually this one placed in the top 20, but this one didn't place even though it took much longer. But it's not very like pretty. And then this is what I entered the next year, and what I won first place with for the competition. This is Serenity and this is Rage. But yeah, back then I don't think my art was very impressive. Like I couldn't even draw a body. What is feet? What are hands? What are faces? Look at that elbow and these arms. I think one thing that was helpful, that I'm lucky for, is that I started art very early. So I've always had people comment that I'm very good for my age. And so that would like boost my ego and make me want to continue to be good for my age. I'd find other people that are my age online and I'd be like, alright, we're rivals now. Well, like not openly. I wouldn't just go up to their face and be like, we're rivals now, you're my rival. But like in my head, I would like treat them as my competition kinda and try to get better than them. And I think that kind of competition was helpful, yeah, growing up. Is art school recommendable for artists whose work are majority postmodern? I'm not big brain enough to even know what postmodern art is. What postmodern art? Oh, postmodern. I'm not informed of this, to be honest. I don't know much about postmodern art. Don't know about their schools, whether it's good or not. I don't even know if like how you make a career out of postmodern art. Sorry. But yeah, I have no idea about that. Let me have a see if there is any other questions. I think I didn't really answer the recommendations questions that well. Any recommendations for those who don't have art schools but are passionate to better reach a career in it? So, how did I get so sidetracked? I was trying to say, you just have to put a lot of time into it, and if you need resources, there's streamers for one, if you want to see like the artist's exact movements, what they do in the program to get the fix they do. But there's also a lot of YouTube channels with great art teachers explaining theories for free. Yeah, you should have a browse, see what channels are good for you, and you can check them out. There's so many out there. Those are really good. That's what I did anyway. I didn't read many books. I used to listen to art YouTube quite often. I'd recommend finding channels with people's from artists whose art that you enjoy, if you're able. Yeah. What else did I do? The rest of like what I did to improve without art school is I would look at other people's artwork and try to figure out their techniques and figure out why their artwork looks so appealing to me and how I can incorporate those factors into my own art. And I think it's quite important to be self-critical, to know what level you are at, what level they are at, and try to figure out what's missing in between. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I said this is going to be a short stream because it's just explaining things about art school, and I'll be putting the VOD on YouTube, so I'm gonna be I should do my YouTube duties. You know what YouTube people say at the end of their videos? If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and if you have more questions for me to cover, you can comment below. Okay. Yeah, and if you think I'm cool, you can follow me on my social media. Yep. Okay, that's it.